Get out now. Those were the words echoing across Washington, D.C. this morning, not from some doomsday prepper, but from inside the White House Situation Room. Because according to newly leaked intel, several major U.S. cities, yes, probably yours, are now classified as prime targets in what insiders are calling the most credible homeland threat since 9/11. And President Donald J. Trump, well, he snapped. Mid-flight aboard Air Force One en route to the NATO summit, Trump got the briefing, and what followed was described by one official as four-letter word fury at the agencies that let this happen and enemies who dare to bring this fight to our soil. So what exactly did the FBI find? Which cities are now under high alert? Why is Russia hinting at arming Iran directly? Oh, and why does Trump's plan to neutralize the threat reveal a strategy that's smarter and more patriotic than anything that we've seen in decades? Well, guys, we got it all right here. The internal memos, the DIA intel leaks, the missile strike on our base in Qatar, the FBI's list of cities, and President Trump's direct response. And of course, by the end of today's video, you're going to understand why his warning isn't fear-mongering. It's a final line in the sand. So stick with me, guys, because what I'm about to show you guys, it's going to shift how you see this moment in history forever. So I want to go ahead and start with what leaked and why top officials are scrambling to contain it. And of course, if you appreciate the daily news updates, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much, guys. So let's begin with what triggered the shockwave across the country this morning. According to multiple confirmed sources, federal law enforcement issued a classified intelligence bulletin late last night, quietly alerting governors, state police, and National Guard commanders that several U.S. cities have now been designated as prime targets for retaliatory action, either from foreign powers or from domestic sleeper cells tied to them. The cities named in the leaked intel: New York, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., Houston, Miami, Atlanta, and Chicago. Now, these were not randomly selected cities. These are hubs of power, culture, finance, and most importantly, soft targets. And if that phrase sends chills down your spine, well, it should, because in national security language, a soft target means a place where innocent civilians are exposed the most. Airports, subway stations, synagogues, churches, summer festivals, even water and power facilities. So the leak confirms what many have feared since June 22nd's U.S. airstrike in Iran. The homeland must be next. And what shocked insiders most wasn't the threat level. It was how the warnings got out. This wasn't meant to go public, not yet. The alert was meant for federal and state coordination only, but somebody inside, possibly with political motives, leaked it. And once the story broke, panic surged. So now let's talk about President Trump's response. As of this leaked alert, once it spread across cable news networks and social media platforms, President Trump was mid-flight aboard Air Force One en route to the Hague for the NATO support. But instead of celebration, he had just, essentially brokered a ceasefire between Israel and Iran the day before, and he was hit with a firestorm. According to the staff on board and a senior very close to the president, President Trump was briefed on the leak at roughly 7:20 a.m. Eastern time. And that is when, in the fury of one official, he snapped, is what they said. They said, not out of control, not irrational, he snapped into action. President Trump reportedly slammed his hand on the conference room table and said, they don't know what the hell they're doing. We're cleaning up their mess and they're trying to sabotage our response. Now, he wasn't referring to the American people. He was referring to those within the bureaucracy, both the current and the former, who leaked the threat map to the media, potentially endangering coordination efforts already in motion. But here is what most news networks won't report. Instead of retreating into rage, Trump took immediate command. Within minutes, a secure call was initiated with DHS Security Secretary Andrew McCabe and FBI Director Gregory Bates. Trump issued the following orders: activate joint coordination task forces across all Tier 1 cities. The second thing was to issue immediate threat posture updates to local mayors and law enforcement. The third, pre-position National Guard resources in strategic city zones like New York City, Houston, and Los Angeles, and also to tighten surveillance on known foreign nationals flagged for post-Biden entry review. Now, think about it. This wasn't chaos. This was calculated crisis management before a crisis ensues. And it shows the public something that they rarely get to see behind the scenes. A president who's under pressure, but still thinking clearly, acting swiftly and putting the American people first. And yet, this was only the beginning, because just as U.S. cities were being fortified, Iran moved, and so did Russia. Now, let's be honest, guys. Most people, they wait way too long to fix their Medicare plan, then it costs them. And if you've been putting this off, please don't. Just ask Francis Latino. We saved $65 a month. Chapter was a big help. Wow. That comment just really made my day. Thank you so much for leaving that comment for me, Francis, to let me know how well things worked out for you working with Chapter. But she wasn't the only one. Jamie from Texas said, Chapter helped me save $600. Guys, the experts at Chapter compare every plan in your area, and they make sure that your doctors are covered so that you don't overpay or end up stuck with some surprise bills. So give your friends at Chapter a call. Phone number is 909-563-8279, or better yet, visit them on the web at askchapter.org/Ron. Did I tell you that the help is completely free? Well, it is completely free, and I'll tell you, the savings might just shock you. So now let's go ahead and move on to what happened just hours after President Trump gave the green light for Operation Midnight Hammer, the U.S. strike on Iran's nuclear facilities. Because on June 23rd, the world watched a major escalation unfold. In fact, at approximately 3:40 a.m. local time in Qatar, 17 missiles were launched by Iran targeting the Al Udeid Air Force Base, which hosts over 10,000 U.S. military personnel and is considered the most strategic U.S. outpost in the Middle East. Now, fortunately, thanks to Patriot and THAAD missile defense systems, most of those missiles were intercepted midair. Only one actually reached its target, and no American lives were lost. But the message was loud and clear. Iran was retaliating. There's no other word for it. And while the strike was tactically minor, it was symbolically massive. They wanted to remind the world that the Trump administration, they wanted to remind the world and the Trump administration that they're not done. Now, the question is, what's truly critical here is how President Trump responded. Did he call for boots on the ground? No. Did he threaten to escalate into a full-scale war? No. In fact, his words were measured. He told reporters this. He said that the strike was weak, it was designed as an off-ramp, and they know we could have wiped out more and chose not to. End quote. Strategic clarity, presidential restraint. That's how Trump framed it. Not as provocation, but more like a warning that America would not flinch and would not be manipulated. That's really what was done here. But what happened next was far more dangerous than missiles. As if the Iran retaliation wasn't enough, just hours after the missile attack, Russia entered the chessboard, and not quietly. In a televised statement from former Russian president and current Security Council official Dmitry Medvedev, the Kremlin sent a chilling message to the West. He said, "We may now consider direct nuclear support to Iran, warheads included, should the U.S. continue to destabilize the region." Let that sink in, guys. Russia threatened to hand over nuclear weapons to Iran, not uranium, not centrifuges, actual warheads. This wasn't hypothetical. This was stated policy, a retaliatory posture if the West, specifically the United States, continued what they called illegal acts of aggression in the Middle East. And if you think President Trump was caught off guard by this, think again, because just one day earlier, before that threat was even made public, Trump was already warning NATO allies to take this seriously, demanding that they increase defense contributions from 2% to 5% of GDP. He didn't say it for the headlines. He said it because he saw what was coming. A trifecta threat: Iran emboldened, Russia escalating, U.S. cities exposed. And yet, legacy media outlets mocked this urgency. They questioned his tone. They called it alarmist. But now the Pentagon, they're scrambling. NATO is rattled, and American cities are now on high alert. So let me ask you this, guys. Was Trump overreacting, or was he the only one that was telling us the truth before it was too late? Which is it? And so now you might be asking, how did we get here in the first place? How did hundreds of potential Iranian operatives make it into the U.S.? How did border failures under the Biden administration leave our cities exposed? And what exactly are sleeper cells, and how close are they to activating? Well, if you've been wondering how we even got to this point, how we ended up with American cities now sitting on tier 1 high alert lists, it really starts with a relatively few in Washington who wanted to face, let's just say, they wanted to just let them in. Now, according to data, now ultimately confirmed by the Border Patrol and the FBI, during the Biden administration, over 1,500 Iranian nationals crossed the U.S. border, and not through airports, through the southern border illegally. Now, of course, more than 700 were released into the country. And according to FBI whistleblowers, many were not properly vetted. And now we know some of these individuals appear on watch lists. They have ties to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and in some cases have vanished into American cities with no confirmed tracking. So So what does that mean? Well, it means exactly what the FBI and DHS are now warning about: sleeper cells, small units potentially connected to foreign terror networks who remain dormant until given orders to strike. Now, under President Trump's leadership, every one of those entries is being re-investigated. Files are being reopened, surveillance is being reactivated, ICE, DHS, and even local law enforcement agencies are being fused into one joint threat suppression task force. And when critics say this is political, Trump's response was blunt. Politics don't matter when missiles are flying over water systems go down in New York. So you want to debate, or do you want to stop the next attack? I think that pretty much says it all here, guys. But here's the twist that most Americans have not heard yet. The next strike might not be a missile at all. According to DHS and private sector cybersecurity analysts, Iran is already inside many of our networks already. They've previously carried out successful cyber attacks on Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, and several municipal water systems across the country. And so now, based on current chatter intercepted by the intelligence units, U.S. infrastructure is once again a prime target. This includes power grids, water purification plants, hospital networks, traffic control systems, digital banking platforms. The goal wouldn't necessarily to be creating or causing mass casualties. It would be total disruption, confusion, panic, delay of emergency response, damage to morale, psychological warfare without a single bomb. And Trump knows this. So this is why just yesterday he ordered a full readiness review of critical infrastructure in coordination with the Department of Energy, the CISA, the CISA, and private sector partners like Cloudflare and Microsoft. He's not waiting for permission. He's not looking for some political polling data. He's acting because, in his words, fastest way to lose a war is to pretend it hasn't started. But while President Trump acts fast to shut down these threats, another war is actually brewing. Not on the battlefield, but inside the Pentagon. So, of course, I want to expose the stunning leak that undercuts Trump's claim of total success in Iran and how this internal contradiction is now raising questions about who's really running the narrative in Washington. So while President Trump is working around the clock to secure U.S. cities and neutralize threats before they strike, a very different battle is unfolding right now in his own government, a battle over the truth. Just 2 days ago, President Trump declared that Operation Midnight Hammer had successfully obliterated Iran's nuclear capability, and we covered that. That place is under rock and demolished, is what President Trump said. Those were his exact words, spoken with confidence as he briefed the press aboard Air Force One. And according to early White House reports, all 14 bunker buster bombs hit their intended targets. 3 hardened nuclear sites deep inside of Iranian territory, including the infamous Fordow enrichment facility. But within 24 hours of that statement, something unexpected happened. A leak, a classified assessment from the Defense Intelligence Agency, the DIA, was leaked to select members of press, including the BBC and CBS News. And that leak contradicted Trump's declaration. So according to this early analysis, the U.S. strike did not fully destroy Iran's ability to enrich uranium. The report suggests that although major structural damage was done, key centrifuges may have survived, and enriched uranium reserves were likely moved before the strike. In short, the DIA claims that the strike only set Iran back a few months, not a few years. So let's be clear, guys. The White House fired back immediately. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt blasted the leak in a very fiery statement saying, "This assessment and the leak itself is a clear attempt to demean President Trump and discredit the brave fighter pilots who carried out a perfectly executed mission." And even Caroline Leavitt, she doubled down saying that everyone knows what happens when you drop 14 30,000-pound bombs perfectly on a target. Total obliteration, period. So who's telling the truth here? Is it the White House, or is it a shadowy layer inside the Pentagon trying to control the narrative, undermine confidence in the president, and feed the media a different version of events? President Trump himself addressed this directly, calling it out for what it is. He said, quote, "There are still people in DC who think they run the country, but they don't. The people do, and I work for them," end quote. So this isn't just about Iran anymore. It's about the battle between leadership and sabotage, between a commander-in-chief and working to keep Americans safe, and a network of insiders who would rather leak from the shadows than stand in the light. And so now, on top of foreign threats, internal sabotage, and exposed cities, we have to ask, will the ceasefire hold? Or are we just one more strike away from a global unraveling? Now, of course, we need to look at President Trump's his personal phone. I don't know if you guys heard about this This has occurred just a few hours ago. President Trump's personal phone call to Netanyahu, how both Israel and Iran violated the ceasefire within hours. It's like, come on, guys. Can we at least try to get along? Apparently not. And why President Trump's patience is running out, not just with foreign enemies, but also with our so-called allies. So as the world watched the Pentagon leaks stir chaos in Washington, D.C., and as U.S. cities scrambled to tighten security in response to sleeper cell threats, another crisis was quietly unfolding. This is the collapse of a ceasefire that President Trump had personally brokered. So let's rewind the clock about 48 hours or so. On June 22nd, President Trump stunned the world by announcing a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, brokered through intense behind-the-scenes negotiations and a flurry of international calls. The war had lasted 12 days. Dozens of missile exchanges, heavy casualties, escalating pressure. And then President Trump pulled off what no Western leader had done in years. He got both sides to stand down. But within hours, the ceasefire was broken. Missiles were fired. Accusations flew. Israel blamed Iran. Iran blamed Israel. The fog of war returned, and Trump was furious. So while still aboard Air Force One, Trump made a personal call to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. His message: all planes turn around and head home, while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. In plain English, stand down now. Netanyahu's office later confirmed the call, stating that Israel would refrain from further attacks and had achieved all of its war goals. But Trump didn't hold back. He didn't hold back praise, nor did he hide his anger. He said, I'm not happy with Israel. I'm not happy with Iran either. These two have been fighting so long, they don't know what the hell they're doing. That's the raw truth. And that kind of honesty is what separates Trump from the polished, the globalist diplomats who talk peace while funding war at the same time. And so now, here's where it all connects to the broader global stage. President Trump, he was on his way to The Hague for the NATO summit, where he delivered a blunt, unapologetic demand to America's so-called allies: raise your defense spending, not to 2%, to 5%. This isn't new rhetoric. Presidents since Eisenhower have begged Europe to carry their weight. Trump, he's done begging. We will not let the American taxpayer fund your safety while you mock our sovereignty. His message to NATO was rather clear. We will lead with strength. We will protect what's ours. We will not bleed money, soldiers, and credibility so other countries can posture while America burns from within. And that's the real thread running through this entire crisis. It's not just a war abroad, it's a reckoning at home, a test of whether the United States under real leadership can defend itself from external enemies, internal sabotage, and ally complacency all at once. And of course, in just a minute, I want to go ahead and close this out with the real reason why I think President Trump snapped. Why this wasn't anger, but about protection. Why behind the sound bites and the headlines, this president is doing something that most leaders have forgotten how to do: put the American people first. So yes, President Trump snapped. Yes, he used some blunt language. And yes, CNN, MSNBC, they're probably losing their mind over this. Who cares? It's one word, right? And yes, he's under fire from both the media and the so-called experts for how he's handling this moment. But let me ask you this, guys. What kind of a leader do you want when your cities are listed as targets? What kind of a president do you want when sleeper cells are roaming our streets, when Russia's threatening to arm Iran, and when the next cyber attack could shut down your hospital or your bank account overnight? You don't want somebody who waits for polling data. You don't want somebody who asks the global community for input. You want somebody who acts. And that's exactly what Donald Trump is doing. Behind the headlines, behind the emotional outbursts, is a commander-in-chief who's making real-time decisions to protect American lives, period. So here's what his team has done in the last 72 hours alone: reinforced security at Tier 1 cities with additional National Guard and DHS personnel, launched cyber counterintelligence operations against known Iranian digital infrastructure, pressed Israel and Iran back into a tense but active ceasefire through direct calls, exposed and denounced Pentagon leaks that could embolden enemies, demanded NATO allies triple their defense commitments or risk U.S. withdrawal from forward defense roles, and most importantly, reaffirmed the American right to live free from fear on our own soil. I honestly feel like that's the biggest one there, because as President Trump just said, as he said just this morning during a classified briefing at the White House, he said, quote, "Our goal is not to conquer. Our goal is to protect. We keep Americans safe, and we will not be baited into endless wars by reckless actors or cowardly insiders," end quote. Guys, that's not weakness. That's not rage, as the media is trying to say. That's nothing short of presidential strength grounded in patriotic compassion. So to the American people watching right now, this is isn't about panic. This is about preparation. The title of this video is not fear-mongering. It's a reflection of what's actually happening. U.S. cities have been listed as targets. Intel was leaked, and the man in the White House is not asleep at the wheel. He's wide awake, he's working, and he's ready to act. So here's what you need to do. You need to, number one, stay alert, listen to DHS and local alerts, prepare your household, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. And of course, most of all, understand that you're not alone. Now, I've left a link in the description down below on items that I think that you'll find helpful in the description of this video so that you are prepared. Check out that link down below because this president is watching, he's acting, and he's fighting for you. Now, guys, if this video opened your eyes, share it. If you believe Americans deserve the truth, spread it. And of course, if you stand with a president who's willing to take the hits to protect our homeland, let it be known. Drop a comment down below, subscribe, hit the bell, and most of all, we got to stay vigilant, guys. This is far from over, but with the right leadership, we don't panic, we prepare. We'll see you guys on the next one.